well, based in my own personal experience. While we were having a meeting in the Ministry of Industry, we were discussing the leather manufacturing process. We have two different processes for this industry. After a lot of efforts, we had a decree in order to have an integrated process for the weathering processing. But people try to circumvent this process by smuggling the leathers. But what would happen to these smugglers? They would be told off and they would pay 500 Egyptian pounds in fine, which is a disaster. I mean, and they get their shipment back, and they can actually send it through other ports, since each one is working according to a different process. And in official correspondence, when we requested that the leather shipment would be maintained, the customs authority responded by saying that what would we do with all of this leather? Changing this system has been very rough. I mean, you discussed the two order, but who imported these fireworks? Who would have received these fireworks? I mean, had it not been subject to the radiation equipment, who would have received it? The speaker is not using a microphone. A prompt question. We rank 170 on the index. So we talked about the draconian laws, and we also mentioned the good practices that need more enhancement. But did we conduct any financial analysis of the losses or the potential gains? Should we enhance these procedures, particularly in the Suez Canal, that to which millions and billions were channeled in order to attract further trade? And the anti-smuggling procedures. If we compare this to Juvat port in Pakistan, which is being financed by a multinational agreement, where do we stand from the losses that we are going to incur from the launch of this port? It's very clear, the difference between the objective and the government and the baseline from the presentation that Dr. Khaled just made, and the objectives that are set by the government are very generic. It just states that we need further improvement, while he put it in a more measurable manner. The study that you referenced, and you said that it took over 3 years, who commissioned this study? And was it the government? And if it was, actually, you put forth all of these recommendations, and then it is completely put in the drawers, or it just shelved indefinitely. These procedures are just cosmetic change. We're talking about a very dysfunctional system. So, is this system able to execute or achieve these objectives? Because the different nations that we used for benchmarking, do they have 100% public agencies for management, or do they resort to the private sector? My point here that this proposal, at the end of the day, um, is it possible? Is it feasible? Is it viable? And if this study has already been commissioned by the government, why is it not adopting it or putting it into force? Your presentation sheds a very clear light on the problems that we suffer from. The digital transformation is different from automation. So we have to review the business model. Unfortunately, we still believe that digital transformation is just a full automation of the system without changing the process itself. And as long as we lack the infrastructure that anchor the process, we'll keep saying that the system is down, the network is down, and everything is broken. Secondly, digital economy has a business model. I mean, we're moving from the vertical to the horizontal. So these vertical sectors are a thing of the past, and we are still working vertically. Everyone is working in silos. So this digital transformation is really challenged by the culture, by the existing culture. Should we fail to change this culture or this mindset, we will not be able to achieve this digital transformation. And for this end, different accesses should be set up. It would be next to impossible to achieve the digital transformation if we fail to overcome the barriers. Thanks for the presentation. I have a question to Dr. Khaled. You talked about the procedures and the process, but from the different interventions, we go back to the human factor. Today, it is easy for me to use the machines when compared to human-based activities. So we need to improve the people. We have to give them the competitive advantage. So do we have a profile for that? Because everything brings us back to the same typical and classic mistakes. I wanted to learn from you. Do we have plans in this vein? We have two major problems that stand in the way. The lack of using the risk ranking system in your slide, and a single window system. Reforming these 2 points Is it a political decision or is it a technical position? So when you talk to the customs officers, people would tell you that detecting 100% of the cargoes was a purely political decision that has been taken by the state and is still in force. So where do we start? What is the starting point for this reform? Is it a technical or a political decision? Good morning. I would like to thank you for your presentation. Yusra Abdir, World Bank. I have a question regarding the new customs law. How far do you believe that the new law will allow for the improvement of procedures, reducing time, reducing cost, and the different problems that you just mentioned? Thank you. Very quick question to Dr. Ahmed. The country has been doing a major efforts and has been working on this single, the one-stop shop or the single window. There was a major meeting with the cabinet that has been attended by the different agencies. Where are these efforts channeled, and where are we headed to? Mustafa Hassan from the Cabinet. We have the logistical center. After the Prime Minister's visit, we have 18 control agencies for customs inspection and detection. The logistical center with the NTS, and I've been working in Port Said. I have a personal experience. I went to a real estate registration office that actually works according to the one-stop shop process, and we actually were part of the automation process for that office. So they welcomed me, and I went there for a very simple task. And I was told that I arrived at 12. Yeah, but then they told me that they only received tickets up until 12 or midday, and then they start to process all the tickets. Is it how it should work? Again, I'm stating it. I cannot overstate it. The working hours start from 9 to 3. So after 12, they do not receive any new tickets. They stop receiving any new tasks or requests. So they do not have any other alternative.
I'm sorry, the sound is breaking up. Have you passed the 6th of October bridge, witnessing the painting of the bridge? How do they do so? They bring children just to paint it while the main thing is still dirty. When we realize that we cannot just paint the ugly picture, we will go for digitization the way we should do it. I'm sorry, the speaker is not holding a microphone. I can't get to hear. What we discuss in this room is not mainly a criticism. Of course, we approve of the efforts exerted, but we need to keep the deficiencies in mind. So we are after constructive criticism, to face the issues in order to reach a solution. Otherwise, we will not improve and we will rank even poorer instead of 171st to 190 or something. Dr. Khaled clarified some of the points relevant to the problems we face. I will try to be very brief. Here, when it comes to the detection and inspection rate, the process involves 5 steps. You need to prepare many papers and you need to involve many people. And you can just streamline this into one step using the equipment and devices that we need. This takes up to 3 days, and we discussed the examples and case studies of neighboring countries like Emirates, the Arab Emirates. So we should be notified in advance of the shipment load. But people still smuggle, because sometimes you know that the consignment is of cloth, for example, but what about the things that might be hidden into the cloth? People smuggle tramadol along with other narcotic material, and we just let it go. Sometimes people will prevent this detection equipment from working on purpose. Also, we have PCs in the customs authority, but they are not working. The shipment fee charged might be 30% of the amount of the shipment. And why do the officer need to write in the customs clearance certificate that the amount required is X only, and then you need to go back to the electronic certificate? So we are exerting double effort. We are working with the help of the PCs and manuals. Also, the shift system is not functional. So people might choose to work morning or night shifts, but then they don't follow the distribution of shifts. And sometimes the shipments stay for more than 25 days. People laugh at us because experts might need to fly at a certain time, go and back in order to get their shipment cleared. We acknowledge the efforts exerted but why would you leave the shipment for 12 days at the airport? Sometimes we hire experts to work with certain shipments, and then they go and stay at a hotel, and the shipment they need to work on is not released or is not cleared yet. As for the one window shop, this was not done in consultation with all the stakeholders. We have an input to make. You cannot give all the responsibilities to junior officers, to fresh graduates. You need to consult seniors in this authority. So we want importers not to deal directly with customs officers. We commend this effort, but you need to consult seniors. You need to take their opinions, whether the customs authority or what we might call customs clearance officers. We also need to link the electronic code in customs clearance offices to logistical centers, because this comes at the heart of trade across borders. We need to link this customs authority to the one single window system. You asked me about the company MTC or MTS company. It's good that I just submit the documents and then I go to pay in the bank, because as you know, the payment process might take long days, because the clerk, if you need to pay 10,000 and 70 people will just charge you 100 in order to get the change for themselves. You might spend 2 hours among different stations to pay, and now this can be done in one step through this MTS company, but you cannot know the amount or the fees charged in advance. You need to know after 2 days from the delivery date. The Prime Minister was in Port Said to start the piloting of this MTS, and we welcome the contribution of the private sector, but we need to do so in a very transparent manner. That's why you need to consult the customs authority senior officials. Also GOIC cannot work without our consultation, because they need to ask us, because the junior people is not or are not competent, whether people inspecting food products or chemicals or pharmaceutical products. You cannot depend on technology on its own. There was a question relevant to the different pricing schemes in different Egyptian ports. I'm sorry, the sound is breaking. Maritime transport companies work as they like, because the cost per meter in Sokhna would differ from the port of Alexandria, and we cannot price things accordingly, whether incoming or outgoing shipments, because in Alexandria they would ask you about the storage, whether is it import or outside, but in other ports they won't even ask you. That's why we want the Ministry of Maritime Transport to price things, otherwise each company will price things as they like. Sometimes they price it double the other port. And also when it comes to maritime agents that are not subject to any control, some companies will charge in dollars, whether when it comes to the fee or the fine or the penalty for delay. Other countries will charge in AGP. Also, we need scales to weigh things, the containers and goods. I even offered to pay for the scale from my own packet. For example, I have a paper pallet weighing 200 tons. How can I weigh this? But according to the law, I need to weigh every single thing when it comes to discharging. But the scale I have in the port can only weigh up to 30 kilograms. So how can I weigh all this things? We need to raise the awareness of the government, and you need to consult people of expertise in order to address the difficulties. The MTS is important partner, and you need to consult the customs clearance offices and firms, and you need to link everything through this one single window system. We used to weigh and issue the clearance certificate. For example, importing aluminium ships, and this is the money I charge you. We want the MTS to do so with our consultation. They need to involve us. Thank you so much for your insightful comments. I think working manually and electronically is problematic, and the same happens in the Egyptian tax authority. They will ask you for an electronic copy and the carbon copy at the very same time. I think this is the mentality. Also, we had this issued in one of the papers that people submitting their tax returns should pay 320 papers. If they submit it electronically, they have to pay 300, and if they submit it in paper format, they pay nothing. So are we discouraging people from submitting documents online? Of course, we need to consult the senior managers because these people have wide experience. I cannot give everything to junior officers. We cannot let this be the case. We need to involve everyone, and this is one of the problems we need to address. One of the questions addressed financial analysis of the losses incurred. I don't know anything about Jawad port. I'm sorry to say so because ports are not my turf, but I study more the system of the trading across borders. But this is a thing that should be taken into consideration. Let's study Alexandria port. The discharge lots are rented and leased for certain countries. And then when they reach, I'm sorry, the line is breaking. I cannot get to hear. I'm sorry, no sound. I can't get to hear, sorry. I'm sorry. I can't get to hear. So sometimes the anchorage rate is pretty low. That's why the business case I presented in order to increase the revenues by reducing the time and cost, because if you reduce the time by 24 hours, you might allow other containers to come in, increasing the flow of the port. And you know who makes the best interest? It's the storage company or the handling company. If the flow is fast, then the revenue will be collected by the port. So storage companies would prefer to increase the time and cost. Also, what about the trade bill and the loss incurred by the government and the flight of investors due to the complicated procedures? I'm sorry, I cannot get to hear what Dr. Abla says because she's not holding a microphone. Bersic, a company used to work in or through Suez Canal, fled to Morocco. Now, as for the efficiency of customs officers or staff in general, what is the cycle of customs clearance? I get the goods, I check the documents, I check the goods, and then send it to the control authority, and then release and clear the goods. So again, I check the documents, I inspect the goods, I get the papers from the control authority, and then I release and clear the goods. Where's the problematic part? all these procedures are manual. Again, it's human centric. So things as are in Cairo airport or Port Said port or Alexandria port are all manual. The one single window you referred to has to do with one single point or one single authority to receive everything. But the same process is still in place because the detection, inspection, documentary compliance are all done the same way. Because I asked someone in the customs, how do you know that Euro 1 certificate is genuine and not fraud or not counterfeited? And the first thing I heard from the officer is that I check the paper and then I know it weighs 80 grams and the paper is of a certain quality. I check the texture, it should be laminated, and then it's genuine and not doctored. But people can get it counterfeited for 1000 or 1200 or 800. I'm not joking. This is well known by everyone involved in customs authority. You will never be able to solve the challenge without addressing the root causes. So I want to take you back to the example of painting the bridge. You cannot do so without sound infrastructure and first primer before the final paint. That's why we need to address the root causes. Otherwise, we are working in vain. You need to care for the 4 steps. So you're just checking the authenticity of the document manually. You don't have a UV or a device to check the watermarks in order to make sure it's not doctored. If it's all human centric, then the chances for system failure are higher because it's all human centric, done in a manual manner. If it's a process and procedure based, then things will be better. There is a famous example in Egypt. The food card or the food supplies card is working pretty well, though the system still depends on the same staff, but because of better governance procedures and lack of human interference, things have improved. Also, the shipment, you refer to the whole issue being political or technical. It was political. The detection rate is 100% was a political one. Remember, people are still detecting the yogurt due to the reactor that exploded long time ago. Because the control authority wants to get some revenues, even if so I asked the importer, why don't you think of better way to do it? Leave the yogurt in the port. Also, another question addressed the new customs law. I think you asked about the new law. And they are just addressing the symptoms and not the root causes. They are painting the bridge without studying the infrastructure or so it's good, but it just addresses the symptoms and not the root causes. So they did not delve deep into the details of detection and inspection. Let me ask you, who controls the detection and inspection? The sound is not coming in. I can't get to hear. Also, some of the matters is under the control of the Ministry of Trade and Industry and not under the oversight of the Customs Authority. Again, the new law is just a gloss over rather than an overall. Also, the one single window system, you know, there is the WCO, the World Customs Organization, and they defined clearly what is a one single window system. I refer you to this definition. We need to have a one single entry point for documents and payment is not one single window system. And this is explicitly mentioned. I can refer you to the document, the last report issued by the WCO. One single window means integration among competent authorities, integration between ports, single entry point, which is the drop point for documentation and fees, is not what is meant by the one single window system. This is based on my experience. The state is exerting strenuous efforts to improve things on ground, but maybe there is a kind of misleading or that the state went off track. And I'm not criticizing, I'm just shedding the light on the current situation. I think I answered all the questions that were addressed to me. In Jabal Ali in Dubai, there is 264 TEU passing through Dubai as a transit. Dubai makes 36 billion US dollars with no added value. Now we are discussing things in Port Said port, and 10 million containers is the maximum that we get, comparing to 200, at least 200 containers. So second, Jawid port is very, very important. This will open Afghanistan as a market for Chinese products in continuation of the Silk Road. Also, we have been involved in the automation of some customs authority, and we need to understand that everything we do relevant to infrastructure might be in vain, because we are spending much time addressing the symptoms and not the roots. As for the one single window system, we have a well-established definition, but what we are doing is not a one single window system. It's good that we can submit the documents, pay at the very same time. This is good because this is the first step in separating service providers from service applicants. But this does not constitute more than 5% of the things. We need to reform the system. We need to have a unified customs tariff and the tax management, risk management system. I'm sorry, the sound is not clear. And this should be done by the customs authority. We should have a better system for the labor division through the shift system. People should receive their workload through an electronic means. We should harmonize the work between the different authorities. We have a project in Malaysia working for 3 years, and Malaysia is among the first 50 countries, and they want to jump to the first 10 countries. We are done with complete automation of the customs authority, and they now they wanted first to link 34 entities, and now they linked 65 entities. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you, Dr. Khalid. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for your very insightful presentation. I think we know that the customs authority is on the right track, and we wish the authority all the best. Happy Ramadan. We set certain sessions or scheduled sessions for Ramadan and in the summer, but now we will break. We will get a break and we will continue after the summer. We will still be working in Ramadan by the end of May. We will start sessions on blockchain application in agriculture. How can you digitize the agriculture sector? We approached some Dutch experts and we asked them for an exceptional session regarding application of blockchain when it comes to communication with farmers. Can we also organize an iftar in Ramadan, or should it be a morning session? Who's after iftar? Everyone is interested in iftar in Ramadan. Yes, like the sunset iftar in Ramadan. You all know the timing. Should it be a morning session or an afternoon or night session? So I think most probably it would be a morning session in Ramadan. I'm not sure because people did not vote, so I'm not sure. Another question just to brainstorm. Do you prefer this to be held in a hotel by the end of Ramadan? So again, once more, would you like to enjoy an iftar in Ramadan and then discuss the session, or are you after a morning session? Still, some people did not vote. Many people are abstaining or just going with the flow. Maybe they will not be fasting. That's why they don't mind attending a morning session. Many happy returns of Holy Ramadan. I wish you all a happy Ramadan.